That is the Atlantic Ocean right there. Across those waters, about 3,000 miles or so away, is the country of England. One day I hope to visit there, hopefully. True crime in the United Kingdom. Who doesn't want to see that, right? So today we are in Atlantic City, and I'm going to show you a couple locations, show you the darker side of Atlantic City, go past the boardwalk here. Show you some different interesting locations. Talk about a little bit anyways, the history of this town. This town has quite a bit of history. Not going to get into all of that history, but in a future video, I do look forward to getting more involved in the history of towns and cities and municipalities all across the nation. But today we're going to focus our sights on Atlantic City. Atlantic City has a very rich, also a pretty notorious history. You had the mob coming down here, controlling a lot of stuff. This place actually in the 1840s was really nothing. Nobody ever came down here. This place was just very, very barren. All it was a beach, and people in the area would just come down here and just frolic in their, 1850 style bathing suits, right? So this place in 1850, a man by the name of Dr. Pitney, he kind of founded as a city, Atlantic City. So Dr. Pitney kind of realized the benefits of people who were sick with ailments and diseases, how if they came down here from like New York City, if they came from Philadelphia, if they came from Camden, maybe the ocean air would make them feel better. He kind of foreseen this area of the country as just kind of like a medical resort getaway, right? Here's the problem with people getting from Camden and Philadelphia, New York to here in the 1850s, and that is we do not have the automobile. There's no cars. We don't have planes. Riding a horse and buggy 120 miles is not feasible. So Dr. Pitney, he was really the driving force behind bringing the railway here out to Atlantic City, to where it was able to turn this place into a vacation getaway. So he was successful in getting the train to come here, and once you bring the train tracks here, then the people will come. And in 1854, that is when Atlantic City became a municipality. And it really, really flourished in the 1870s. And what happened in the 1870s that really, really brought people here is the very, very thing that I'm walking on right now, and this is the boardwalk. Now, I love learning stuff. I love learning every day. Now, I thought as I'm walking on the boardwalk, I thought they called it the boardwalk because of the boards that we're walking on right now. Well, obviously it's called the boardwalk. Duh, the wooden boards. No, this was built by a man named Andrew Boardman, and they named it the boardwalk after him. It's quite clever, if I do say so myself. So the 1870s, you have this place, you have this boardwalk. This place is starting to get really happening, really, really popular. And then Prohibition comes. Alcohol is outlawed, and let me tell you, that was the golden era of Atlantic City, because you had a lot of people coming from all over the country out here, because this was basically Las Vegas in the 1920s, the 19-teens. You could do whatever you wanted out here. Hey, honey, I got a business meeting. Oh, where are you going? Atlantic City. Oh, of course you're going to Atlantic City, right? And you would come out here. Maybe if she was lucky enough, you bring the wife. Maybe if the kids were good and they kept their grades up, they would come out here, and you have vacation. You have stuff for the kids to do during the day, and then the adults would sneak out at night, and God knows what they were doing, right? God knows what they were doing. And that was when Atlantic City was just really, really just cracking, if you will. If you see that Irish pub, let me zoom in the camera right there. That was a speakeasy back in the day. Now, a speakeasy, you probably heard the term speakeasy. Well, a speakeasy back in the days of Prohibition was basically a bar where, they would serve drinks, without the police knowing. And if the police knew, you'd pay them to just mind their own business. And it was always a quiet place. You had to talk quietly. You had to talk like this. That's why they called it a speakeasy. They don't want to be too loud. Yeah, the cops know what's going on over there, but you're paying them every week a nice little envelope full with $10 bills, and they just turn a blind eye. So you had alcohol, you had gambling, you had prostitution, anything and everything that you can think of was afforded to you in Atlantic City, and it was truly an adult's playground, a paradise, if you will, for the person who wanted to come out here and frolic and just kind of get away from the wife, step out on the wife, if you will. I mean, it was great times in Atlantic City. But then, bad things happened. You had the Great Depression. And when you had the Great Depression, you got a lot of people who have a lot less discretionary income to spend. They're not coming to Atlantic City like they were before. So this place seen a blight going on, like a lot less people, a lot less crowd. So the Depression ends in Atlantic City, it comes back up, and people are, they're feeling themselves, they're coming out here having more of a good time. But then you had several factors that led to the proverbial death of Atlantic City. And people don't really think about this, but in the 30s, jet travel started getting pretty inexpensive for people. So instead of just coming to the boardwalk, you can jump on a plane and go somewhere else. So a little bit of that, a little bit of diverted tourism going other places. Okay, you also had the invention of the automobile in terms of it being even more affordable than it was before. So now you don't have to really rely on the railway to come to a place like this. You have a car. You can go to other places. So now Atlantic City is in competition with, Virginia, North Carolina, Ohio, Niagara Falls, a lot of places. Now, mind you, Prohibition's over, so now you can go drink anywhere. You can drink at home. And even though it would be 90, 95 degrees in Philadelphia, it would always be nice and cool out here, 70, low 70s. You got the ocean breeze right over there. Well, with the invention of air conditioning, I don't need to go out to Atlantic City for a cool breeze. I could just simply turn on my air conditioner and I'm good to go. And you probably have some other mitigating factors in, the eventual downfall, at least the first downfall that I'm going to call it, of Atlantic City. Now, for any of you out there watching this video, if you're wondering, like how I was wondering, one thing about Atlantic City, if you've never been here, you always hear about the Taj Mahal, the Trump's Taj Mahal, and how much of a failure it was. And of course, it's no longer here. The Hard Rock Hotel, which is right there, you can see the rock part of the sign, that used to be the Trump Taj Mahal. Now, Atlantic City has been cleaned up quite a bit. They're bringing a lot of tourism back. They're building a lot of things. I think they're adding to the convention center. They're building like some outdoor shopping promenade out here. But now we're going to step off of the boardwalk. I've kind of gave you a little bit of the history of Atlantic City. I've talked about how it came to be. Did not talk about all the performers that would come out here. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., the lates and the great, his name escapes me, Jerry Lewis. Lots of people would come out here perform. Nowadays, not so much. There's some great history here, and maybe one day in the future I'll come back here and do a proper video. But now we're going to step off the boardwalk. We're going to take you to a couple of locations, a couple of maybe the seedy side of Atlantic City, and show you the other side, the darker side of Atlantic City. Currently, I'm walking down Missouri Street. If you lived in Atlantic City in the 60s and the 70s, then you will remember a place that used to stand right here where I'm walking right now, and it was called the 500 Club. It was a very, very famous nightclub that was owned by a man by the name of Paul D'Amato. If you don't know who he is, well, he was an associate of Sam Giancana, who was, of course, the big-time Chicago mob boss out there. And at this club, played a lot of great entertainers, like I've mentioned earlier in the video. Jerry Lewis, Frank Sinatra, when he was starting out, played here. Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, a very young Aretha Franklin, many others played at this club throughout the years. Now, in 1973, it burned down, but while it opened, it had an employee by the name of Raul Suarez. This man was the MC here at the 500 Club. Basically, his job was he would probably tell a couple jokes, he would sing, he would open up the floor before introducing Frank Sinatra or whoever was playing that night. While he was not working at the 500 Club, he drove a taxi here in town. This man was very, very well loved and respected in the community. Mr. Atlantic City himself, Raul Suarez, was very, very popular here in Atlantic City. If you came to town, you more than likely probably heard him singing in either the 500 Club, or he would get on stage at another nightclub right in between him working as a taxi cab driver. He'd jump on stage, sing a couple of songs, and jump right back in the cab and just vamoose, gotta go make that money. And he had a slogan that was emblazoned on his cab, and that is that every day is a miracle. I was reading an article about him, and somebody had made a joke that this man gave so many free rides in his cab to people. They always wondered, how do you make a living? If your car broke down, maybe you were an elderly widow, you could always depend on Raul Cook's Book Suarez to take you to the store and come and pick you up, and he wouldn't charge you a dime. Truly a beautiful man. On March 31st, 1985, he was on, I believe it was Highway 30, right outside of town. It was about 1:45 in the morning, and all detectives know is that they seen Raul Suarez slumped in his cab. He was dead, blood everywhere. He had been stabbed to death. Now, we can't really call this a robbery because he still had his jewelry on, and he still had $40 in his pocket. Whoever murdered him, they took his cab and they ended up dumping it about a half a mile down the street here on Michigan Avenue. This was a man that had absolutely, as the police know, no enemies. Everybody loved this man. He was the most popular person in town. He had a cable TV show. He had a radio program here. If there ever was the term Mr. Atlantic City, it was Raul Cook's Book Suarez. And now you have going on 40 some odd years that this murder has not been solved at all. Driving down Atlantic right now, this is pretty much the main strip here in Atlantic City, and whatever you need, whatever your vice might be, you can easily find it on this very street right here. The competition when it comes to drug sales is so fierce over here. I was talking to somebody on the boardwalk who has a drug problem, and they were telling me how it works. There's drug dealers out here right now that sell $2 bags of fentanyl. That's how bad it is. I never even heard that you can get high for $2, but here in Atlantic City, you very much well can. And you have a lot of competition when it comes to that sector of the economy, if you will. And, you'll have a lot of shootings, a lot of killings. And it's not so much gangs out here, but it's more of blocks, corners. Like, you know, Paul will sell drugs on South Carolina Avenue, and then, you know, Willie will be on Michigan Avenue. So it comes and goes. It's very territorial. And mind you, these are guys that, I mean, they're not making very much money at the end of the day. I mean, they think that they're making a lot of money, but in my opinion, I just never understood the drug sales trade, unless you're doing it big time. And even then, I still don't understand, because eventually you will get caught and you will go to prison. I mean, it's a lose-lose situation at the end of the day. It's, in my opinion, it's best to just never start it. But whatever you need, whatever you're looking for, you'll find it right here on this very street. That's a little roadside memorial for a kid named Malay Johnson. He wasn't shot and killed there. He was shot and killed a couple blocks away, but I guess this is a corner where he hung out at, only 19 years old. Him and his friend were hanging around doing what? I don't know. And somebody came up and shot and killed him, wounded his friend. Very dangerous out here. This here is Tennessee Avenue, and this is the Carver Hall housing projects to my left. And in my opinion, this is the crappiest part of Atlantic City, is right here. Not even a half a mile from the boardwalk. And me just driving around here, all the eyes are on me. People think I'm a cop or that I'm looking for drugs, because I'm just circling around this neighborhood, just trying to show you guys what it looks like. Now, I'll say this, it's not a bad looking place at all. This is pretty clean. This is kept pretty well. I've seen way, way, way worse. But the whole area of Atlantic City, this is going to be the area that you really don't want nothing to do. This is a very, very bad neighborhood. There's just a lot of decay, a lot of drugs, a lot of drug users, a lot of drug pushers, and all in the shadow of the Borgata Hotel and Casino. It's amazing how you have multi-million-dollar buildings in this area, literally only a few hundred yards from, you know, just a very, very poor neighborhood. I'm currently walking along the train tracks here. To my right is the Atlantic City Tollway. To my left is the Black Horse Pike. Now, this swath of land is about 23 acres. Basically, it's a row of seedy motels. These are motels that basically either you wanted a super cheap place to stay for the night, or it was the kind of place that you rent by the hour, maybe by the half hour, whatever your pleasure is. You would go get a girl from the boardwalk, take her over here to one of these motels, and do whatever it is that you do. This is also a dumping site. As you can see right here, we have some mattresses, some box springs, trash, basically things that people don't want. November 20th, 2006, a couple people were walking in this very area that I'm walking on right now when they noticed a human body. They immediately ran, called the police. Atlantic City detectives came out and confirmed that the deceased was 35-year-old Kim Raffo. She was basically, at one time in her life, she was a regular mom. She had kids, went to the PTA meetings, stuff like that. So detectives, they're just kind of cordoning off the scene. And as they're walking around in this drainage area that I'm walking to right now, they find 3 more bodies. Okay, you were not going to see something like this definitely every day, no matter where you work as a detective. They were later identified as 42-year-old Barbara Brighter, 23-year-old Tracy Ann Roberts, and the youngest one was 19-year-old Molly Dilts. These women all had something in common. One, they were all facing the same direction, that way. And number two, they were all prostitutes. This is the drainage area where their bodies were found. You can see in the picture, the white dots will mark where their bodies were away from each other. I'm gonna guess they were about maybe 50 or 60 yards at the most. Now, there was somebody, a person of interest. He wasn't a suspect, he was just a person of interest, excuse me. And his name was Terry Olson.
Police have never identified a suspect in these murders, but they have more than one person of interest and consider the case active. This is one of those men, Terry Olson. He and his lawyer, James Leonard, agreed to an interview.
Did you murder these 4 women?
I absolutely did not have anything to do with it.
Olson claims he's been cooperative from day one, submitting his DNA and agreeing to an interview without a lawyer. While investigators won't comment on Olson specifically, there is circumstantial evidence that led police to him.
Without any disrespect to Mr. Olson, he's not Machiavelli, okay? He was simply answering their questions. I think that he presented to them an attractive target.
He was 41 years old. The reason why he was a person of interest was because he was a maintenance man at the Golden Key Motel. Well, I mean, that's not anything to be alarmed about, to bring interest to yourself. Well, when they were talking to him, they noticed some camera equipment that was set up in his room. And on his camera, they found pictures of his girlfriend's daughter undressing. Oh, yeah. And by the way, I forgot to mention this. His girlfriend said he killed those girls. So they take him down to the station, and this guy did not ask for a lawyer. He submitted DNA evidence, and he just simply said, I didn't kill him. I'm not the killer. Now, he does remain a person of interest, but I'm pretty sure the police are just going to say no. But they do still have their eye on him. So I guess the only thing he's guilty of is being an absolute creep. Other than that, looks like he is no murderer. 15 years later, these 4 murders remain unsolved. Doesn't get a whole lot of play. I don't really hear too many people talk about it. You got 4 women living very dangerously, selling themselves for drugs on the streets. No one maybe is gonna raise an eye. So whoever killed those girls got away with 4 murders. I'm walking up to the final resting place of Raul Cook's Book Suarez. And he's buried right here. Along with his mother. She died the following year. Can you imagine his poor wheelchair-bound mother sobbing, having to bury her son? A man that was very, very well loved in Atlantic City. And I know that was many, many years ago, and people forget, people move away, people die. And maybe not many people remember this guy, but this video, I had to include him in it because to me, just reading the little bit of history that I read about him, he's as important to Atlantic City history than anybody. He is a part of Atlantic City's history, and he is very important. He was a very important piece of it. And he's buried with other family members. I'm about to head out of town. That road will take me straight to Philadelphia, or close to it anyways. But before I leave, I always, when I'm in town, visit the grave of Gary Grant Jr. Many of you have already seen my video about him. If you have not, I'll put the video in the description box below. You can watch it if you like. This little boy's story was on Unsolved Mysteries, and me as a very young teenager, I remember this story quite vividly. All of the murders that I've spoken about today are all unsolved. If anybody has any information on any of the unsolved murders in today's videos, please contact the Atlantic City Crime Stoppers. Their phone number is area code 609-652-1234. Again, their number 609-652-1234. I am Lamont at large. I will see you on the next video. Have a blessed day, y'all. Peace out.